Anishinaabe from Ontario. And he talks about how those 7 gifts, I actually wrote a book. It's sitting in my truck. I thought about bringing it up, but talked about how those gifts of love and truth and humility and leading to wisdom are part of the Canadian Constitution. And he explains why. But the simple explanation is that the treaties, but the big treaty was the one in 1764, that it carries those 7 gifts, and it carries the teachings that come from the one dish with one spoon wampum. And just think, one dish, one spoon. What that really is saying is that we all are connected to this land, and that our well-being at the end of the day is connected through the natural world. Everything else, can create problems. And one of the wampum belts, I mentioned William Commanda, carried 3 wampum belts, including a 7 fires wampum belt. Said we're in the 7th fire now. And so the choice is that collectively, enough of us have to choose life over greed, power, and that's the dilemma facing the world. That's the choice that has to happen. And so this is one example. What's happening at Barber's Lake is about choosing life first. And that development needs to pass the test. Will that development impinge, harm Mother Earth and her capacity to generate life? Well, I would argue when we start messing around with water tables, when we start messing around with the biodiversity of the wetlands, then it doesn't pass the test. It's not appropriate development. And it's interesting, I attended the Earth Summit in 1992. Indigenous knowledge systems were recognized as one of the pieces of knowledge that we needed to move forward. But we relied principally on Western science. And what has happened since 1992? All the indicators are that we've lost more biodiversity. We didn't stop the loss. We actually are continuing to lose ground. And everybody knows, all you got to do is follow the news and know that climate change is accelerating. But it should be understood that climate change is actually Mother Earth's capacity, beautiful capacity actually, and strength to heal herself. And she'll use fire, she'll use water, she'll use wind, and for that matter, she'll use earth in the form of earthquakes to cleanse herself until balance is brought. We're out of balance. I just came from an annual meeting of the Niagara Escarpment Biosphere Network, and there were parks planners there saying we don't have enough park space for the people that live in the Toronto area, the escarpment, which is the most populated part of Canada, but already they don't have enough park space to help people connect to the land in a good way. And they're building houses without access to a yard or even a collective space. And that just isn't going to work. We have to get back to putting a higher value on the land itself and our connection to that land. And those prophecies say that Indigenous peoples need to speak up, that our ancestors lived here for thousands of years, and there's something to be learned about ways of knowing. So we're happy to be here. We're happy. I just want to applaud the leadership of Chief Doreen Davis from Shabbat First Nation. Happy that the Kitchissipperini drum came. The drum, we say, is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And to share those honor songs, it's part of making our connection to the land and sharing that with everybody. And at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We'll all draw from that web of life, and we're all dependent on the actions of one another. Back to the dish with one spoon. That we have to understand that better. Unfortunately, our education system struggles certainly to share Indigenous ways of knowing and understand even our shared history. Things like this wampum belt. I'm also, well, why don't I show it to you? So the Crown, in 1764 and onward, actually understood the importance of wampum belts and created wampum belts. This wampum belt was created at the end of the War of 1812, a war in which Indigenous allies were a key element in being able to defend what are now Canada's borders. And the Americans and the British went to Ghent in Belgium, and they created a treaty. Now, not unlike today, there was a group representing the Hawks from the South, whereas the representatives from the New England states, for example, were more Doves. And they had a business relationship with Canada, and they didn't want to see that destroyed. They never supported the War of 1812 anyway. But the Hawks carried the day. And so General Brock, of which Brockville is named for, and Tecumseh, a Indigenous leader and warrior, the two of them got together. They actually agreed that if they won the war, that a pan-Indigenous state would be created in the Midwestern states and the Prairie provinces. But when that was put on the table, Henry Clay was the lead negotiator from the South. He said, no way. But he knew he had to give up something. So they agreed to acknowledge the treaties up to that point, including the Treaty of 1764. And so they put in Article 9, which is to honor those promises that have been made. But there really wasn't an enforcement mechanism, and part of reconciliation is recognizing those promises were made. And not long afterward, the British Crown just felt like, well, we don't really need Indigenous allies anymore. Our populations are growing, we're less dependent on them, so they didn't honor their word. But their word in 1716, in issuing, this is what Rick Hill and I call the Pledge of the Crown Belt. And it basically, the Crown said, we will have a parallel path. There's going to be ups, downs, challenges, but we will remain true to each other. Well, nothing was actually less true than having said that, because, like I say, the Indian Act came along, residential schools, etc. And thankfully, there's been some recognition of that, and we're trying to rebalance, respect what our ancestors, both European, on behalf of all newcomers, and Indigenous ancestors agreed to. And it's actually a world that is sustainable, that respects the land. So that's part of what we're all challenged with. We're all part of a history that said our first responsibility is to the continuation of life. And so I thank each and every one of you for coming out today, for sharing your time, your energy, your thoughts, your love for the land. And so I'm just going to wrap it up. If people have questions, I'll stick around. I'll be around for a while. But this is our history. It's not just Indigenous. It's all of us.
If they blow a hole in my backyard, everyone is gonna run away. the creeks won't flow to the great lake below, will the water in the wells still be okay? If they blow a hole in the backbone, the one that runs across the muscles of the land, we might get a load of stone for the road, but I don't know how much longer we can stand. We'll need to build some new apartments, and I know we're gonna have to fix the roads. But if we blow another hole in the escarpment, the wild ones won't have anywhere to go. If they blow a hole in my backyard, everyone is gonna run away, and the creeks won't flow to the great lake below, will the water in the wells still be okay? And we'll keep driving on the blind line if we don't know where we wanna go. And even knowledge that sound can get watered down, and truth can get sucked out the car window. And truth can get sucked out the car window. We're 2/3 of water. What do we really need? The sun and showers, soil and seed. We're 2/3 of water. The aquifer provides. Deep down in the rock, there's a pearl inside. If they blow a hole in my backyard, everyone is gonna run away, and the creeks won't flow to the great lake below, will the water in the wells still be okay? If they blow a hole in the backbone, the one that runs across the muscles of the land, oh, we might get a load of stone for the road, but I don't know how much longer we can stand. Oh, we might get a load of stone for the road, but I don't know how much longer we can stand.